For this week's The World of Chinese video blog, I had the chance to sit down with Jesse Appell, a current Fulbright Fellow and graduate of Brandeis University, and recipient of a Bachelor's in East Asian Studies and International Global Studies.
Hey, nice to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Welcome, welcome.
Although his name isn't a household figure in China just quite yet, Appell's face certainly is. While the viral video Gangnam Style made waves across the world, his spin-off Foreigner, or Laowai style, has been playing on computer screens across China. Jesse's Fulbright project involves rigorous study of the Chinese literati-based comedic art form, xiangsheng.
One of your, interests as a Fulbright scholar here in China is a humor.
Yeah.
Right? And you're looking particularly at this Chinese art of xiangsheng.
Xiangsheng is a type of traditional Chinese stand-up comedy. It's got 200 years of history in and of itself, but it comes from the techniques and the forms of Beijing opera, which has many, many more years of history back before that. So you could say that the techniques that are used in the art form now could be as much as 1,000 years old.
I asked Jesse to recite a short piece he had been memorizing. The piece, 小孩子, or Little Children, describes children who are famous in Chinese history for being exceptionally smart and clever. The piece references many stories that Chinese people know intimately from their own cultural stories. Translated directly, many of these stories lose their potency to a Western audience. But learning the history behind them is one of the ways xiangsheng can open a window into Chinese culture as a whole, he says.
The closest thing that I think that Americans might know to a xiangsheng piece is Who's on First? The routine by Abbott and Costello, where you have the guys going back and forth. Who's on first? Yes. What's his name? No, what's on second? Going back and forth doing that sort of thing. Xiangsheng is very similar in that you have these two people on stage. You have this humorous dialogue. They have this go-between. There's a lot of witty banter. There's a lot of language play involved. There's a lot of puns involved, and just generally, just sort of crazy situations that these two people find each other talking about on stage.
So, that's really interesting because you were talking about humor kind of in the Chinese sense, and that's a good opportunity to segue into this kind of viral video that you just created called, the phenomenon, Gangnam Style has spread across the United States, and it's now like #1 on the iTunes downloads and things like that.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been hugely popular in China, but somehow what you've done is you've created a like your own play on Gangnam Style, and you've called yours a Laowai style, which means foreigners style.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about why you think that video was so popular, and what were you trying to accomplish with it?
Gangnam Style is really interesting because all over the world it's kind of it's just completely taken off. Everybody loves Gangnam Style. So that was one of the reasons that when we were thinking about we wanted to do a video, why not do a Gangnam Style video, because that's really popular right now. Originally, the video wasn't made with the intention of going viral or anything like that. It was made with the intention of just getting out there, spending a day or two having a good time, and then making this fun thing that we could edit together and then put on the internet. What happened was I had nothing to do over the Guoqingjie break, and so I was in Beijing for a week, and I figured, it's probably worth trying to do some sort of project. So we decided that we'd want to get a group of people together. I sung the lyrics, sent it to my brother, who's an audio engineer out in back in Boston, and my brother put together this. He edited my terrible voice into something halfway decent, and we put it into the. We got the MP3 back. I heard the MP3, and I was like, "This is going to be really funny." And then we met up, a bunch of my friends. I sent out an email to the people in my language program, to some other Fulbright scholars, the people in my bilingual improv troupe, just sent out a sort of who'd like to come and help us and dance in the silly video. Sent out that message. We met at 9:30 and we filmed in the morning, and we filmed all the way through until 11:30 at night. So a lot of the best footage that we had, we didn't even plan to have in the video originally. What happened is we were filming and we attracted a lot of attention. We had a whole group of school children who were walking by with their teacher, And the teacher just sort of stopped, and they were watching us, and I told the camera person, turn them around, turn the camera around. I'm going to try to convince them to dance with us. And the teacher was a great sport, and she's like, do you want to dance with them? And the kids were like, yeah, a little. So we had this, I taught them to dance really quickly, and it's a very easy dance. The real dance is much more complicated, but I can't actually dance, so, we didn't do any of that.
Did you guys ever get in trouble filming any of the scenes?
Well, we never actually got in trouble, but it wasn't for lack of effort by the authorities. What happened was, at the Bird's Nest, we actually were kind of in and out very quickly, so we left. Where we ran into the most trouble was on the subway. And we were filming in the subway. We got most of our subway footage done, actually, by the time that they came over and they were like, you can't film here, you can't film here. Actually, according to Chinese law, any public space you can film there. But, what can you do? So they come and they cover up our camera and they say, well, you can't film here, can't film here. So we were a little bit upset because we have to figure out a way to film the final scenes that we needed for editing purposes. We couldn't get a way around them without the shooting. So we decided to just get on the train. Okay, we'll go down one more subway station and then we'll film it there. Just don't look suspicious. But apparently we did look suspicious because the moment that they called us, the moment that we went on the train to go to the next station, the police were already waiting for us at the station after that. So luckily, we had seen them radio in, and we shot the footage we needed really quickly of my friend Emily dancing on the subway car, and then we booked it 5 cars down. And when we got out on the next stop, there were 3 policemen waiting for us at the entrance of the subway car that we had gotten in. So we just sort of walked into the crowd and filmed the rest of the subway scenes surreptitiously. Luckily, we didn't have too much left to film, so it wasn't too much of a hindrance. But it's left me not wanting to go back and film in the subway again unless I really have something worthwhile.
Sure.
Or have multiple cameras so they can't just actually cover up the lens, which is what they did this time. So,
So, I guess my question to you is, some of the lyrics that you have, I think, really appeal to Chinese people, particularly about this aspect of foreigners. And in some of the lyrics, if you don't mind me paraphrasing, are things like, I'm the kind of foreigner who likes Beijing culture, who doesn't use, who's terrible at basketball, who rides a scooter to work, and these are all stereotypes. These are all direct negations of stereotypes of foreigners in Beijing. That foreigners kind of walk around with this kind of arrogance or something, and it's almost like what you've done is to say, like, I'm the kind of foreigner that you should like because I want to be like you and I like you.
I think
So what were you trying to go for when you wrote the lyrics and when you shot the video that you think, maybe unintentionally or maybe very intentionally connects with Chinese people?
I think there are a lot of aspects that connect. Originally, when I wrote the lyrics, I wanted to do kind of exactly what you were saying. I wanted to make sure that the lyrics came out as saying, there are foreigners who live the life of regular young people in Beijing. Now, there are lots of different people who live lots of different lifestyles in Beijing. But I think that the lifestyle that people generally think of foreigners as living in China is really outdated. And so the purpose of the lyrics in one sense was to sort of break down these stereotypes that Chinese people may have had about foreigners, from very simple ones like, can we not use chopsticks to eat? Of course, we can use chopsticks to eat. Yes. But I've gotten a lot of flack. A lot of people on the foreigner boards, they say, like, what is he doing? Like saying, like, by even mentioning the fact that I like when I eat I don't use a spoon, you're enhancing the stereotype because it's so ridiculous anyone would ever think that. But some people still think that. And then for the people who are sort of convinced that, okay, you can live a regular life in China, but you're still a foreigner, then I threw in these lines that were that were more, down to earth. Like the line that Chinese people keep telling me is the one that was the most interesting to them, was the line where I said, I don't wait for the light to turn green before I cross the street. So they would assume that I, as a foreigner, would be waiting for the light to turn green before I cross the street, but I don't. So that's sort of a thing that I think Chinese people can sort of look at themselves and say, yeah, we do that. And oh yeah, he does that too. Yeah, that's good. That means we're kind of like we're closer in that sort of sense. A lot of people don't like the term Laowai because if you just translate it, it's like, what does it mean? Like, all people from outside the country are this one homogenous group with the certain characteristics, and that is frustrating for people who are used to growing up with separations between different nationalities. And so there's that to deal with, but I think that the phrase includes the good and the bad that people feel about foreigners in China. So when I'm talking about I'm that kind of Laowai, I was kind of hoping that maybe there's a way to sort of switch that, whatever this complicated package of feelings are towards the phrase Laowai, maybe push that just a little better towards a direction that I would rather be represented as. I would rather be that type of Laowai. And maybe it had that result, maybe it didn't.
I asked Jesse if he thought that Western audiences would ever be able to appreciate the humor and culture of xiangsheng.
I definitely think, well, there are two ways of looking at it. One is saying, are the comedy techniques that xiangsheng employs funny to Westerners? And the answer is definitely yes. Like, I've seen the people doing the sort of things that they do in xiangsheng. There are all sorts of techniques. They have these things, for instance, called word fountains, guangkou, where they memorize this incredibly complicated, strange, often esoteric bit that has often little to do with anything. It could be the names of countries, it could be all these different types of Chinese dishes. And they memorize them to be able to say them really fast, really precise, and just like very funny. Like bam, and just flood the audience with them. And sometimes they can go on for minutes. I think it would just absolutely kill, because no one sees that anymore, really. It's not a thing that's in Western comedy. The technique would be new, and it would also just be funny.
Have you memorized any of those? Have you learned any yet?
I'm like halfway through learning one about the countries in the world. It's not all the countries in the world, it's just a lot of them. Okay. And like regions.
Can you recite any of them?
I keep getting asked to do these things when I'm half prepared.
Half prepared.
Sorry. You go, 太平洋、印度洋、大西洋、北冰洋、欧洲、亚洲、非洲、美洲、大洋洲、东亚、南亚、西亚、东南亚、韩国、朝鲜、蒙古、日本、越南、印度、老挝、缅甸、新加坡、菲律宾、尼泊尔、印度尼西亚、孟加拉、新加坡no, I can't do it. 孟加拉、斯里兰卡、冰岛、丹麦、瑞典、芬兰、波兰、捷克、德国、法国、奥地利、俄罗斯、乌克兰、爱尔兰、匈牙利、南斯拉夫、萨尔多瓦。I can't do it. But
that's great.
For Jesse, the study of xiangsheng is much more than just a trivial pursuit of humor. I asked him what drew him to this uniquely cultural Chinese art form over, say, traditional American stand-up or improv comedy.
Well, one of the things I love about xiangsheng is it's in Chinese. I love Chinese. I studied Chinese when I was in college, and I studied abroad here, and I really like the culture and the language. And it was a way of sort of combining two of my passions, one for Chinese, one for performance and comedy in specific. It's great going to your productive place where you need to get stuff done, but when you're getting stuff done, you're laughing all the time, you're joking, you're smiling. It's just good for your body. I feel like every time that I go to do xiangsheng, our classes are 3.5 hours long, they just fly by. And then after I leave, I feel like I'm speaking Chinese better than I have in my whole life. Being around a community like that where everybody's striving to do difficult things, but not beating themselves up when they fail, because inevitably you fail. That's a great context to be around in terms of learning the language, and of course people who are doing comedy, all the better. Like how much can I hate my work if I'm laughing all the time? You know, like I can't at all.
This is Terry Shea for the World of Chinese.